A wrong-way driver hitting a car head-on, going more than 100 miles an hour, killing 3 people. Kyle Moser, Ava Fellerman, and Alexandra Dulin, a TikTok influencer who went by Ali Spice, were killed. It took months to catch the suspect, Thomas Petrie. He ran away from the scene, leaving a passenger behind as well.
Families of the 3 killed in his car, Kyle Moser, Ava Fellerman, and Alexandra Dulin, also known as TikTok influencer Ali Spice, were relieved to hear Petrie was caught, but are disappointed in Perkins' arrest. Alexandra's father, Jimmy Dulin, says they are going to support Perkins. He feels the charges against him are too severe, even if he was speeding.
If it weren't for a drunk driver going the wrong direction with his headlights off, we wouldn't be in this position.
Okay. Hello, Jim. Thank you so much for joining today. I appreciate you taking the time to come visit us and discuss your beautiful daughter, Alexandra Dulin. We spoke to Allie's mom. We spoke to Devin's mom several weeks back, and this is kind of a follow-up with Alexandra's dad. We wanted to get some more information about Alexandra, and I want to express my condolences for this tremendous loss of what she's been called as Allie, right? You guys have referred to her. Is that something that she adapted on TikTok, or was she called Allie at home?
I think it may have been first grade. She went by, her name is Alexandra, and there was an Alexand, she was and there was a der. And the teacher said, would one of you be open to changing your name? And Alex said, yeah, I'll be Allie. And so she's been Allie, Alex, Alexandra, Spice, Shorty. Those are her names.
In terms of
boy, sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
Goodness.
This is obviously, as everyone listening knows, it's a very, very emotional thing to have to discuss your child in the past tense. So obviously, we want to know more about Allie. Is that okay if I call her Allie for the rest of the
interview?
Of
course. Yeah, feel free. Okay. And right. I'm Jimmy, by the way. Just
You're Jimmy. Okay, Jimmy. Okay. Okay, that's good to know. All right. So, Allie, beautiful Allie, tell us about, again, I want to make sure I express my condolences for your tremendous loss. And tell us about Allie. Tell us about the side of Allie. She obviously had 1 million TikTok followers, right? She was an influencer.
Yeah, she had 1.2 million.
Wow.
And she was having a lot of fun with it. So in our family, the personalities were Alex was like me, and JD, our son, her older brother, is like my wife. And so she and I were the two more outgoing, expressive, emotional, and the other two are pretty stoic. So I used to tease Allie. I called her Shorty a lot, but anyway, I used to tease her and ask her why she thought she had so many followers. She told me it was that she was authentic, and that's what made people like her. And I used to just tease her and tell her, I think it's because you're cute. I think that's it. Just cute. But when she passed, man, it's something about just looking at the picture and talking about her that
Yeah.
when she passed, I have probably received, I don't know, a few thousand people from around the world um, sending me letters, things in the mail, lots of messages on social media telling me about the impact that she made
Wow.
in their lives, which was really, it went back to the authenticity. Her girlfriends, when she started doing this at Hooters, her girlfriends from Hooters told me that she would come in 2 hours before her shift, 2 hours before her shift, and she would write back to everyone who commented or wrote her. She never overlooked anyone. So they told me the same thing, that it was her authenticity.
Yeah.
But I don't know. She loved it. I will tell you that. She was having a, and that's what was so unique about these two. Um, Two young kids, in their 20s, and both responsible in that they had money in the bank. Um, Devin had worked in heavy equipment, and if he hadn't had some level of responsibility um, and saving and stuff like that, my daughter would have just overlooked him like it was, I don't know, like he was just serving her coffee at Starbucks. I mean, she just would not have paid any attention
Yeah.
because, because she had dreams and aspirations. But more importantly, she had built a business that allowed her to go to a restaurant and develop content that ultimately helped grow her business. So she could travel and was footloose and fancy free and able to just enjoy life how she wanted to. And if Devin had been anchored by a 9 to 5, if you will,
Right.
I don't think that, I don't think that would have given them the opportunity to spend the time together. They only dated 3 months before the car accident. So their tenure was very short. But since he had saved and worked in heavy equipment, made good money, but more importantly, it's not what he made, it's what he saved. They were in a position to spend every waking moment together, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Wow.
And they pretty much did for about a 90, 120 day period.
Wow.
I don't know if you heard about how they met.
No, please tell us.
Well, this one's cute. So Alex, I don't remember what storm it was, but so we'll go back to 2022, spring of 2022, whatever storm, hurricane, or not her. Yeah, it'd be hurricane. Whatever hurricane came through Florida, we were telling Allie she needed to get out of St. Pete where she was living, and she made herself a nail appointment and went and got her nails done. And we're like trying to get her to get the hell out of there. And she's at a nail salon getting her nails done.
No worries.
Yeah. And then she's going to go home, get her cat, and she's going to, drive somewhere. I think maybe she was going to go probably to her brother's, but I'm not 100% sure. At any event, she gets on the interstate to leave. And of course, she's waited now to the last minute. So she gets on the interstate and it is backed up. And she's talking to my wife and her mother. And she says, Mom, I just can't deal with this. I'm just going to go home. My wife is sitting here in Indiana panicking because her little baby girl is, first of all, she's just recently moved out on her own. And now she's going to, go weather this hurricane on her own and this, that, and the other. Well, anyway, she turns around and goes back and says, the hell with it. Whatever. She said, if it's my time to go, it's my time to go, is what she told my wife, believe it or not. So she goes home. She is on some social media platform. Her and Devin meet. She had, the recognition and the stardom and notoriety or whatever, followers, and So she sees him as a handsome young man, and he sees her as a beautiful young lady. And he happens to be with Kyle in, I believe, somewhere Orlando, let's call it. So it's like an hour or so away, and she's like, well, come over because I'm stuck here with the storm, and she invites him over, and this kid, believe it or not, jumps in an Uber and takes an hour and a half Uber ride to meet a girl he's never met before.
Wow.
And with no plan to get home. No, like
Kids,
no
right?
Yeah. So anyway, that's it. That's how they met, and they rode the storm out together, and developed a tremendous friendship and affection for one another. And yeah, so two great kids.
Wow. So now, obviously, she was not born and raised in Florida.
No, we're from Indianapolis, Indiana. So she is a Hoosier native. There's all kinds of crazy internet stories and stuff out there where she came from, and this, that, and the other. And but she is a Hoosier.
Okay. And
so
what made her go to Florida?
She actually, well, so we took her to Savannah, and she went to SCAD, and that's kind of where her discovery from all of this stuff began. She began modeling, and she got picked up by different clothing lines, and then the social media stuff all clicked. And when she decided, she called me and said, Dad, I don't want to go to college anymore. And I'm a 2-time community college dropout. So, I was the easier target than her mother, who's a doctor.
Wow.
So I was easier target, which for Allie, it was always me because, again, same personalities. So anyway, she said she wanted to quit, and she said she wanted to move south, and she wanted to go to Miami, which is where I went to college the first time, believe it or not. And she decided she couldn't quite afford Miami. She was a little bit worried about the cost. And so I think what drew her there was the fact she had been working at Hooters. And there is the original Hooters is in Clearwater. And so I think that's what originally drew her to that particular area, was being close to the Clearwater Hooters. I think she had thought initially she would go to work there, but her video that was called the unappreciative server that went viral, that pretty much changed her trajectory damn near overnight.
Wow.
So she never did end up getting she never had another job after the Hooters in Savannah, which she dearly loved working there. She, it was kind of a love-hate relationship. There was a lot of craziness, but she made so many dear friends, and so many of those girls are sweet. And my wife and I still talk to many of them today. So matter of fact, whenever we go down to south to see JD, our son, we stop in there and have lunch, and they have a plaque of her. And
oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. It sounds like she was really loved, not just locally, but worldwide. She left the world.
Yeah, I'll tell you, when she passed, we went down to clean out her apartment, and we put everything in those black and yellow tubs that you get at Lowe's.
Mm-hmm.
And we just stored it all. We went and rented a storage facility, and because we just emotionally couldn't do anything. We were just at that time paralyzed. So, so we just drove down, put everything in tubs, got all of her stuff out of there. And we started getting these messages. Could I buy something of Alex's? Can I buy something of, well, they didn't call her Alex. They always call her Spice or whatever, but can I buy something? And we were like, yeah, we're just not, first of all, I don't think selling her stuff is what we want to do. and we're just not ready to part with anything, or we just, So our son was living in Tampa, and so we stored everything at his place, at his apartments. And he then decided to move back to Jacksonville. So when we went there to move him out, we pulled all of her stuff out, and I just made the comment to my wife, as we go through this stuff, why don't instead of just moving all these totes, why don't we purge and see if there's some things now emotionally we're prepared that we don't need, that we don't have ties to. And so we did, and we went through there and we pulled out hundreds, maybe 1,000 items. I don't know, just so many dirty shoes that she wore to Hooters that were her waitress shoes that just we didn't need these things.
Right.
And so instead of we were going to donate them all to Goodwill, and I mentioned to my wife about all the people that had inquired, and so we put all of her stuff and put it out there on social media that we would give it to any of her followers. They could have it for free. They just had to pay for the shipping, and we just picked $15 flat rate. You pick an item.
Wow.
Venmo us $15. We'll drop it in a box and we'll send it to you.
That's beautiful.
We sold, shipped, whatever, about 2,500 items in the matter of hours all around the world. I mean, her stuff went, and we got these emails and pictures of people with actual little tribute walls in their houses of our daughter.
Wow.
Around the world. It's incredible.
That must feel so good to see that.
It's mind-boggling, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I know we need to talk about Devin and the Save Devin movement. And
so what was your tell me, what was your, being that they were only together such a short period of time, you did meet him, correct?
I met him one time before the accident, and I'm the only family member that did. I had a conference in Orlando, and Allie and Devin and my son's then girlfriend. So my son's girlfriend went with me to the conference, and Allie and Devin drove over and met me for dinner. So I met him one time, and that was it prior to the accident. My wife had never met him. And so then we really became acquainted with him afterwards. So, the most common question is, how, I mean, people always say it's amazing that you're supporting him, this, that, and the other, but they say how.
Right.
And the bottom line is we raise our children to understand right and wrong. And it would be wrong for us to condemn this young man. And it's not, oh man, I'm sorry. It's not gonna bring her back. And all it does is continue to cause more pain to another family. This whole event is obviously devastated. I mean, I could easily say, hey, the three families that lost children, the family of Devin, so there's four. Then we could say what Tom Petrie did to his own family, so we could say 5, because they're innocent victims in this whole thing, right? That his kids don't deserve whatever they've had to experience. And then the drunk woman who gave the keys to Tom. So we could say 6 families, and then there's countless other people that were friends, neighbors, cousins. So who knows how many families have been affected. But here's the bottom line. You can't in one breath tell your children to do the right things, and then in your own breath, because it doesn't serve you, because I want to be mad at somebody, take it out on Devin. That's just wrong.
Right.
And I'm just not going to do it. I mean, the state attorney's office had, I had a phone call with them where look at this guy, he wanted to persuade me. It was an effort to persuade and to change my opinion. And I said to him, you don't get to control what I believe is right and wrong. And what I think you're doing is wrong. is it terrible that my daughter's gone? It is horrible. It is
Mm-hmm.
something I have to live with for the rest of my life. But that pain, I am not going to take it out on this young man. He was speeding, and if you want to charge him with speeding, I support that 100%. If that means taking his license, if that means 30 days in jail, I don't give a shit what it means,
Right.
because he's guilty of that. And if he's guilty of it, fine, do it. But because some drunk driver goes down the wrong side of the road and happens to hit his car, does not make him a killer. And labeling him as such is unfair. It's unjust. I'm mortified by it, and I'm not going to let. And the reason why we speak up is because our daughter would not support this in any way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
She would not be in favor of this. It's not about anything else. It is purely about right and wrong. And he's guilty of it. And I don't even know if he's guilty of speeding. I wasn't there, but presumably he was speeding. And if he was speeding, that's his crime, if you will. And that's not a crime that deserves 30 years in prison or life in prison. I can't imagine. I mean, we certainly are very close now, but I can't imagine, because I can only understand what he's capable of explaining. How he must feel every day when he wakes up, knowing his best friend's deceased, his girlfriend's deceased, another young lady's deceased, he's injured. And think about what all his family's been through and the pain, and look at how hard Victoria and Michael, his dad, I mean, all the efforts and the finances and the everything that goes in to saving their baby. So I'm sure he's got enough to deal with without other people turning on him. So
yeah, it's very commendable. It is very commendable of you. I always try to put myself in the position of the person that I'm speaking with, and I don't even know, you don't know until you're in that situation, how you would handle it and how you would feel. But it is very commendable to stand by your beliefs, even though it has, it's affected you in, like you said, immeasurable ways. So I commend you for that.
Well, it's just right. Again, it's just right and wrong. And I think, it's no different than every time anybody goes through some sort of tragedy, we all say, geez, I don't know what you're doing, how you deal with it. And people say it to us all the time. And the reality is that you don't know until you're in that position. None of us truly know. If you had told me, hey, you're going to lose your daughter tomorrow and you just need to get prepared, I would say, oh, no, that's impossible. I could never live a day if one of my children passed before me. But the reality is that when it hits you and when it happens and when it's real, you're forced to deal with it. And your options are to try to come up with a path forward, a healthy path forward, or a destructive. If you decide not to find a healthy path, then it's a destructive path, whether it's destructive to you or the people around you or the world out of hate. And I'm just not going to live that way. Especially the legacy of my daughter isn't going to be the demise of her parents, or the legacy of our daughter is going to be the one that we get to tell people and the one that we get to demonstrate. And so I know that Allie told me when we were meeting for dinner, again, I was in Orlando for work, and she said, hey, do you care if I bring a boyfriend? I don't care. Great. Sounds good. I mean, Allie always had a boyfriend. She was too cute to not be noticed, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
So anyway, she said, do you care if I bring him? And I said, no, not at all. She said, okay, cool. So we went, and she said, I just want you to know, Dad, you're really going to like this guy. And I go, oh, okay. Well, what am I going to like about him? She says, well, he does everything right. He treats me the way that you treat Mom, and he treats me the way that you told me a guy should treat me. So,
wow, that's beautiful. I'm glad that she was able to find that in Devin.
Yeah, he's a good kid.
What was your impression of him when you met him?
So I think Alex, me being her dad, I'm sure that she could describe me, despite I doubt this is. I'm sure there are kids that would say, "Oh no, my dad is that, not your dad." Um, but I'm sure she said, "Oh, my dad's super straight lace. He's this, he's that, and the other." And then you've got this young man with tattoos on his fingers and his neck and all this stuff. And I'm sure that this kid came there a little apprehensive about meeting Allie's dad.
Sure.
And but what what she doesn't, or she didn't realize, and I think she grew to know this later through other things that were going on in her life. But I think until she got a little older, what she didn't realize is that mom and dad didn't give a shit about that. Just because we didn't want her to have a tattoo, or we wouldn't allow her to have it until she was of age and make her own decision. As I explained to her when she told me about his tattoos, I said, honey, you've got at least 8 or 9 that I know of, and I'm sure there's shit I haven't seen, and I still love you. So how can I love you and then judge someone else? Like it just doesn't work. I can't have it both ways. So I either judge you or I love you. And if I love you, then I don't judge somebody else for that. And so anyway, he came there very humbly. He came there as a polite young man. And I will tell you this, he is a great conversationalist. He is absolutely a fabulous person to talk to. He loves a good conversation. Like he really, really enjoys this is not a materialistic young man. He has very few things on his want list. He loves to sit around and talk. And he liked the closeness of Allie and our relationship, and he's been very drawn to us, and we have a very strong relationship with him and his family, both his mother and father. We've got a good family bond as well with Kyle's family as well. So Teresa and Boone, her boyfriend, and her kids, and we've developed a good relationship with all of them. So
That Kyle was the other young man those that don't know, Kyle was the other young man in the back seat, and then there was what was
Allie's girlfriend Ava, and I don't know Ava's family near as well. But I have gotten to know Devin's family, and I've gotten to know Kyle's family. And again, we didn't know any of these people pre crash. So, but I would say we'll probably be friends for life. I doubt there's too much that could get in the way. I think we've been through the hardest of times as families. I don't think there's anything we're going to go through that's harder than the loss of children, and then fighting for. I realize Devin's alive, but we're fighting for him to not be a lost child in this too. I mean,
you're fighting for life as well.
Yeah, it feels like we're in that fight of our life, and I think that's the hardest part, is that the state has chosen to take this fight to Devin's family, despite that our families don't support it, and also in spite of the fact that they know this brings additional pain and suffering to all of us. They're still doing it. And you can't help but wonder why it's I'm not sure. I where is the win in this? Where's the who gets what from this? Like why?
Right. Did you immediately support Devin when you found that he was going to be charged, or did it take some time, or was it something that you immediately said, I'm going to stand behind him?
So I told first of all, we were unaware that they were going to charge Devin. We had conversations, as you can imagine, from the accident point until the time that they served the warrants for Thomas Petrie and Devin. And we had lots of conversations with them. And at that point in time, we were unimpressed with the level of competency or the organizational skills of the police department there in Florida. But beyond just being unimpressed, we still had a ongoing relationship. We had a lot of challenges with them. They wouldn't give us Alex's phone, and you never felt like you got the whole truth from them. You just felt like you got bits and pieces. But the moral of the story is we never knew until 30 minutes. They called me at like, I don't know if I'll get this exactly right, but I want to tell you they called me at 5 a.m. and woke me up to tell me they were serving their search warrants. And I said warrants or something like that. And they said yes for both Thomas Petrie and Devin Perkins. And that was the first time so I had to sit on that. I didn't call Devin, even though I knew 30 minutes before they were going to arrest him, because I didn't want to alert and create a scenario where somebody did something because they had time to think about it. So I just kept my mouth shut and waited. I called his mother, and obviously we were in communication with all of them. But I will tell you, the answer to your question is we supported him from the very second. Matter of fact, his mother, he was in the hospital, and I think one of the, obviously he was there with his family, but outside of his mother and father, I think his very first phone call was to me.
That says a lot. That says a lot.
So, yeah, I think his first phone call to me was to me to apologize. And I told him at that time that our family stood by him and that we did not blame him. We had no intentions of blaming him. It would be great if we had some magic button that we could push and it brought our daughter back, but there isn't one. So we're not going to cause you additional pain or anguish that you don't need to experience. And us being mean to you is not going to bring our daughter back. So it's just not going to happen. And so, no, we've supported him from the very second. We have used our voice, our platform in every aspect that we can.
Yeah.
And to the extent that the state prosecutors, they do, I won't say that they don't talk to us, they will talk to us, but they certainly are very guarded around us, and they don't engage with us, and they've not been, because of our position of supporting Devin, they've certainly removed themselves from much discussion with us.
Yeah.
At one point in time, they threatened to arrest me for my relationship with Devin, because we invited Devin to come to Indianapolis for the Indy 500. And at that point he had been arrested and was out on bond. And they actually made me raise my hand, and my wife, we had to raise our hand on a Zoom like this, and that we had to take an oath that we would not talk about the case with him, as if we had some sort of inside scoop.
Oh my goodness.
And if we did, they were going to find us in contempt of court and come arrest us.
Wow. That's unbelievable.
Unbelievable, right? We're the parents of a lost child, and now we're going to be arrested for.
You're the victim, and now you're being, essentially treated like some sort of criminal.
Right. We're going to be arrested for being nice to a young man who's already suffering.
Wow. Now, did you learn of Devin's plea deal after the fact, or did you know that he was going to be offered that plea deal?
No, we didn't. It's our understanding, and I don't know this to be factual, but we were unaware of it. We believe that the Fellerman family was aware of it. And we believe that they played a role in it. It's kind of been mixed reviews. We don't know if they, and by they, you have a family, but you have different people within the family, and they're not, the mom and dad aren't married. So I don't know if I heard from the mother herself that they didn't support these actions against Devin, but I also heard the dad, when we were when all the victims were on a call with the state's attorney, I heard the dad say he did support it. So,
This is Ava Feldman's dad.
yeah.
The
So he
pastor
was,
to Kyle.
yeah. So when we were on one of our meetings with the state's attorney, he indicated that he supported the state's efforts to, I think, bring the wheels of justice should roll over these people or something. I forget exactly. But the moral of the story is, I don't know exactly if they have a united family stance or not. I know that the Mosers don't support it. We don't support it, but I don't know I don't know the facts about the Fellerman family.
So we don't know where they stand. But Kyle's parents, like you said, don't support.
100% in support always from day one, minute one, second one.
They do support him. They support Devin. They don't support him being charged with this crime.
Correct.
They're essentially charging with him with.
Yeah, we look at it just quite simply. There in our case, in our belief, there's two people to blame, and it's unfortunate that they don't bring criminal charges against Joanna Dillon. But you've got a lady that gets so drunk. She's there with her mother and her child, and she sends her child. She tells her child, because he doesn't feel good, she tells her child to call her ex-husband and have him come pick him up because she's going to stay there and party. And she doesn't seem to care about her own child, decides to stay and drink and gets so obliterated that the bar cuts her off. She's so drunk that she hands her keys to another drunk, and they drive down the road, have their booty call, and then pull out and kill 3 people and severely injure a 4th person. And so those are the 2 people that we think are guilty of a crime, but they don't charge Joanna Dillon in any crime. She can get stinking drunk and hand her keys to another drunk, and they make a horrific decision. And she bears no criminal responsibility. She'll bear a civil responsibility, but she bears no criminal responsibility.
Right. And that's wild. Because, when Victoria told me the story and she explained that essentially Devin is, facing 30 years to life. And we're talking about the same charges as a man who willingly got in a car inebriated and then drove. He was so inebriated that he drove the wrong way on this road, causing this accident. And like you said, taking the lives of 3 young people and severely injuring a 4th. And that person has yet to be listed, even Devin, as an injured party in this case.
Yeah, they have brought no charges on behalf of Devin, because even though they did acknowledge Victoria as a parent of a victim, they did acknowledge her in the courtroom one time, just once that I'm aware of. But no, I mean, this whole thing is just about, Petrie's at the bar 6.5 hours with his live-in girlfriend, sees Joanna Dillon, who is somebody that he had previously had some relations with, drives home, takes his live-in girlfriend home, drops her off so he can go back to hook up with Joanna. They leave in Joanna's car, pull off the side of the road or go to another bar or something and have their experience. Because when Joanna's at the crash scene, she doesn't have her clothes on the way that she left the bar. The same clothes that she leaves. When we see her then get on the police video camera, she's just in a sports bra, as if she's not fully redressed.
Right. Wow.
From the evening's activity. So this was all over, in their poor judgment of obviously drinking and driving and stepping out on your you live-in girlfriend. This was just one shit show after another that took the lives of these people and forever changed these families.
Yeah. Now, when I read the case, is it true that he was not immediately found, that he had gone, like he left the scene? initially?
Yeah. He ran. So the story, the evidence that was presented in the courtroom was he got out of the car. He is seen taking a case of beer and throwing it on the ground and breaking all the bottles. And then he disappears. He's approached by a couple other cars that stop to offer help, etc. He dismisses that he's okay. And so everybody's concerning themselves with all the other people.
Right.
And he then walks into the woods and disappears.
Wow.
And then shows up, gets picked up hitchhiking, or somebody recognizes him and picks him up, takes him back to the bar. He gets his car. He then gets a hold of an attorney. The attorney suggests that he go to the hospital, but that he not allow them to draw any blood or anything else, but just to make sure he was okay, because he had some injuries, obviously, from the accident. So he goes to the hospital, but will not allow them to draw blood, to do any alcohol testing, et cetera, et cetera. And then the attorney reaches out to the state's office, and they apparently denied. They didn't want to meet with him. They knew who he was hours, so it wasn't a matter of, are we going to catch this guy?
Right.
And the way that the state's office presented it to us is that if they met with him as a suspect, then the clock starts ticking, and they didn't want the clock for when they could arrest him or when they could charge him and take him to court. They didn't want that clock to start until they had gathered up all the evidence and the stuff that they needed. So it took some time, but obviously, I mean, we knew from Allie's friends, her friends had concerns over her whereabouts 6 hours before we heard from the police. We only heard from the police because I picked up the phone and started calling Florida State Police and asking about my daughter. And I got some woman on there that was like, you could tell she knew, but she wasn't protocol wasn't to tell me over the phone that my daughter had passed away. And so they reached out to Indiana State Police. They found a patrolman that was in the area. This poor young man, he's probably half my age, knocks on my door at 11 o'clock at night. And mind you, she had passed away at 2 a.m. the previous. So it was almost 24 hours. I mean, she was almost deceased a day before we found out.
Wow.
She was listed as a Jane Doe, despite she had her ID on her. I mean, it was just, the whole thing was a shit show. I mean, it's not like I'm experienced in it. It's my only experience, but we're not talking about a young lady who's not been to the doctor or, doesn't have dental records or,
right.
And she wasn't burned in any way or destroyed. I mean, she was deceased, but her body was all intact.
Right.
So it wasn't as if, didn't seem like this would be a really hard case to identify. You take some blood, DNA, voila, a couple hours later, here's our young lady.
Yeah, I wonder what happened there, why that happened.
I don't know. It was a whole series of things. Like, for instance, they tried to give our daughter's phone to one of the other families. I'm not sure which one. It doesn't really matter. But they tried to give our daughter's phone to one of the other families. But then once they did give it to one family, and the family gave it back. I think it may have been the Fellermans, but I can't swear to it. But here's the crazy thing. They gave the phone to another family. The family gives it back and says, this isn't our child's phone. And then the police refused to give us her phone. It took us like a year to get her phone, but they were willing to give it to somebody else.
What?
Yeah.
Wow. It took you almost a year to get her phone?
Yeah, we couldn't get her phone and couldn't get her personal effects. I mean, I mean, she was listed as a Jane Doe. It was like so much of this stuff just,
It's
again,
not making sense.
I just don't know how it works.
Right.
So I don't have it to anything to compare it to, but
Right.
I can tell you this. Families go through these horrific tragedies, and this system could be designed to help prevent some of the pain that families go through, as opposed to compounding it, which is what they've done.
Absolutely.
They made the process a lot harder. No different than recently. You know, we have a trial tomorrow for Petrie because he's trying to vacate his guilty plea. He pled guilty, and he's trying to vacate.
Ask you what you thought about that? Yeah.
Yeah, so he's trying to vacate that, and so tomorrow we'll be on a Zoom in the courtroom, but when he files this motion to vacate this plea, we get an email that's just as callous as can be. It just says, just wanted to let you know that Petrie's filed a motion to vacate his plea and he wants to go to trial. And we just get this, that's the email basically. It's so like flippant. And so we reply back and she's like, oh, you know, like no big deal. And I was like, well, you know, we wanted to talk to state's attorney. My wife said, well, we'd like to talk to one of the state's attorney. Oh, well, they're busy right now. Okay. So you send us this email. No one can talk to us. And you just tell us this is just normal.
Right.
Like you're telling us that the killer of our child is trying to get out of prison. And we're just supposed to just chalk this up as normal everyday business.
Right.
My point is they could set expectations. Hey, he's pled guilty. It's likely that he's going to get to prison, realize, holy smokes, why did I do that? I want a second chance. And he might file this thing, and this is what we'll do, just to be aware this could happen.
Right.
And then when it does happen, it's not but there is no one cares enough to prevent the extra pain that they do. They just don't seem to care. And I don't know if that's because it's just the way they are, or if that's because we don't support their efforts to imprison Devin. We don't know the reason, but we know it is the reality.
Right. What is his reason for trying to vacate the plea?
Basically, he just I guess it's fairly common when somebody pleads like this that they put their mercy on the court and they're hoping that the court's going to give them a very, very small sentence. And if they don't get a sentence that they feel good with, then they can go back and try to vacate that plea and go to trial, because at that point they're in his case, it's 37 and a half years, which he'll have to serve 32 of that. So he either serves 32 years or he tries to vacate it. And if he vacates it, then he gets a trial. And who cares? I mean, he's 54 years old. So what if the judge says, well, now that you made me do this twice, I'll give you 50 years. Well, who cares? Who cares if it's 50 years or 32 years? Right. If you're 54 years old, you're talking about 86. I mean, what quality of life, if any, does an 86-year-old have coming out of prison?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't think that is a high quality of life. So I don't think the sentence, it's interesting because going into all this stuff, we kind of talked as a family, and you get a lot of people like, well, what are you hoping for? And my response was always that, just justice to be served. I don't know that there's, I don't know that there's a number or a punishment that changes it, makes it any different or any better or worse.
Right.
I mean, certainly if he had only gotten 12 months or something like that, I'd be like, are you kidding me? You took my daughter and you spent 12 months. Like this would have, but the 37 and a half years when they announced that, and then they gave you all the stipulations, which takes it down to basically 32 years because he only has to serve 85% of it. When they did that, it felt good. It felt fair. It's good as it can feel, right? I mean, again, you
Right.
don't get your child back, but it felt okay until, which we didn't hear this, that, again, another thing where the state just their level of concern for people is so minimal. They announced that he's getting 37 and a half years, and then boom, they shut the Zoom off. Like it's just it's over. Well, we're in Indiana, so we can't hear, but the sentencing, once the sentencing's over, it's just they just shut it off. Well, what they go on to explain, and what we find out later is it's 37 and a half years per count, but they serve them concurrently. So it's only 37 and a half years for everyone.
Right. It's
So
not like 37 times 3.
correct. So what I said to him is I said, hey, the way I do this math, and I'm just, hey, again, I'm a 2-time community college dropout, so I'm not the smartest guy in the world. But the simple math for Jimmy Dulin is my daughter, Kyle, Ava, and Devin, 4 victims that this guy destroyed their lives. 3 of them, he took their entire life, and the 4th one, he just has severely impacted that life. If he has to serve 85%, I'm down to 32 years. Simple math for me says that each person's life was worth 8 years. Now, that doesn't feel very good.
No.
And they told me, oh, no, Jimmy, it's 37 and a half. And I'm like, but it's not if you serve it concurrently. Like that may be good for you on political fronts to put it out. Oh, we got this guy for 37 and a half. But for the families, no, what you said is my child's life's worth 8 years.
Yeah.
And I'm here to tell you that that's not an accurate statement. That young lady's life is worth far more than 8 years.
Yeah, absolutely. All of their lives are worth more than that. They deserve better than this. And I certainly hope that he does not get any time cut off of that. In fact, he is, like you said, he's at the risk of adding time to it, because if he does end up going to trial, he's risking, adding more time onto his sentence. So,
I just hope that his roommate is big.
Right. That's what
I feel sorry for his family. I'm telling you, even in despite the fact that obviously I have nothing for this man, mostly not as much for the accident, but as much more for the callousness of walking away. That's what really gets me. People make mistakes. We're all human beings. I'm not above a mistake. I've made them. We all try to do better every time we make one. But man, when you didn't even go over and survey the situation and see if there was anything you could do, that's what I can't forgive this guy for. And I'll tell you what, when I look at that and I see walking away, he did 2 things. He demonstrated he didn't care about these lives. They were just thrown away to him. And the other thing he demonstrated to me is that he was going to put whatever was important to him above his own family. Because if he had stayed back and at least had been compassionate and a human and stayed there and did whatever he could and accepted responsibility, at least his kids could say, hey, my dad screwed up, but he owned it.
Right.
And he took responsibility. Instead, he's left these kids to now live in a town where they get to live his nightmare that he left them while he goes and sits in prison.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt sorry for him because they don't deserve this. And I don't blame them. It's not their fault.
It's not. And that's, again, very noble of you.
I think you just have to, it falls on Thomas Petrie and Joanna Dulin. And those are the 2 people that should take responsibility for all of this. And I tell people, leave Thomas Petrie's family alone. It's not their fault. They didn't do it. I don't know them to be nice people or bad people or anything in between. It's just not their fault. They weren't the people driving the car doing this. It was Tom.
Right. They didn't get behind the wheel. and make a conscious decision. You know, you have to say yourself that too, that he did make a conscious decision to leave, you know, as inebriated as he was, he knew enough to get himself up and leave the scene of an accident that he knew he was going to be held responsible for. So, you know, that's another thing that you have to take into account, is that he consciously got up, left, and knew he was leaving behind the destruction, you know.
Yeah.
So
And he just
really
didn't care. It
Right.
didn't matter to him. And now, you know, he sits there and he sits in front of the judge and he says, I understand, and I'm going to plead guilty. And he, you know, he has this pre-written speech and he reads it all out, and, you know, he wants everyone to feel sorry for him and this life that he has to live. And as soon as he gets there and gets to prison, gets his hair cut, he decides, oh shit, I don't want this. So I want out. And now, so, I mean, it's just a further, you just understand that he's going to say and he's going to do whatever he can to try to get himself free of all this. So
yeah. And his true colors are shining through. Like you said, you know, again, I don't know if I have 2 children. I don't know if I could put myself in your position and, you know, act the way you've acted. So, you know, so nobly, and even say he made a mistake, and had he not left the scene, I don't know. I mean, I probably would feel differently. I think I'd want that person dead, you know, if it was me. So yeah, I give you a lot of credit for that. But yeah, he needs to be held responsible for
that's all
making
we
a
want.
mistake, and then not even caring, giving a care in the world. And like you said, now he's sitting behind a prison, and you know, he's sitting in prison and saying, you know what, yeah, I don't want this life. And he has an opportunity now to try to you know, fight these charges. It's wild to me. It's wild.
It is. And hopefully tomorrow hopefully the judge will put an end to that. And then I guess he has, his attorney won't even represent him in this attempt to vacate the charges. The attorney left him. So, okay. I mean, his everything is eroding. Hopefully they go through a pretty exhaustive process when somebody pleads guilty, for them to acknowledge, and they reiterate it. You're aware of what you're doing. No one made you do this. You chose this. And I mean, it was exhaustive. It was probably, I bet you there was close to an hour of dotting I's and crossing T's to make sure that what he said on camera was well documented, that he knew that there was no promise of, I don't know. I mean, honestly, the 37.5 was the smallest sentence that fell within the parameters of what had been done by this person. So he got the smallest sentence possible.
Yeah, he got the minimum that he could have gotten, and he's still looking to fight it. So tomorrow, that will basically be where he goes in front of the judge. He'll be on a Zoom listening to that, and he's going to present why he's vacating, and then the judge will decide if he's going to allow it.
Yeah, so the judge will decide if there is merit for his sentence to be vacated. If she decides that there's merit to vacate his sentence, then I believe the next thing they would do would be request him to be released on bail. Okay. And then they would have to set a trial date, and he's then hired a new attorney, I assume, because his attorney said he wouldn't represent him. So I'm assuming he's hired a new attorney to do this. I don't know how much time they would give him, because the state obviously was prepared for trial, because it was only a week or 2 weeks before trial that he he ended up pleading guilty.
Okay. So they would probably be prepared to go to trial pretty quickly if in fact the judge even agrees with that.
Well, they should be ready to go, but quickly is not anything that falls in the vocabulary. I mean, you know, December 11th, 2022, and you and I are talking January 8th, 2025, and we're still dealing with this.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the part that is, you know, is terrible, is that you think it's done. You think it's over with, and now you have to kind of relive it again. It's not done. It's not over with. You're still fighting for justice, because obviously you don't want him to be able to walk free. So
certainly he certainly needs to be responsible, held responsible for his actions and the pain that he's caused these families. My daughter, you know, you can see I'm a little thin up in here, and my daughter used to tease me and say, "Daddy, you need Bosley," and that's how I learned what Bosley was from my daughter teasing me. But I've really gone thin in the back now. I won't even show you that from the last couple of years of stress. It's all of this stuff takes an amazing toll. But I will say that my family's strong. We stand united. We love each other.
thank God for that.
You know, Allie and JD's mother and father have been us, my wife and I guess I shouldn't speak about us in third person. We've been happily married for 26 years, 27 years this April, and we've been together 30 years. So
Beautiful.
we're going to just try to live the best life that we can and be supportive of one another.
I'm sure she would want you to, right?
Oh,
she had such a strong spirit. You could just look at that picture of her, look at her face, and see she was just looked like just a fun, loving person. And I'm sure
that girl didn't know, she didn't know a bad time. I mean, honestly, there are videos out there of her in gas stations having a good old time. That little, you know, like I said, I affectionately called her Shorty, but she could go anywhere and have a great time. She just got a tremendous demeanor about her, and she enjoyed life. Certainly, you know, she had her good days and her bad days like anybody else in the world, and nothing was perfect. But I will tell you this: my daughter lived her 21 years. She just passed, her birthday's November 17th, so she had just turned 21, and she lived her 21 years and got more out of 21 than most people would get out of a full long life. So
it looks like it.
She had a lot of fun. She had a lot of fun, made a lot of friends, and
and even though you called her Shorty, it seems as though she was large in life, small stature, but it seems like very large in life, big personality, very large in life. So bless her for that. And I think that the person that she is, the person that she was is a true reflection of the way you and your wife raised her to be. And just speaking with you and hearing you, I can see why the world loved her. Because if she was anything like you, I'm getting a little emotional just speaking about it, but if she's anything like you, we need more people like you in the world, Jimmy, because it's a beautiful thing. It really is. So I want to close out and just say, what does justice look like for you going forward? On January 21st, I believe Devin is going to be 31st. Okay. January 31st, he is going to be going in front of, he's going to be at a hearing, and they will decide if he gets a new trial. So is that something that you want to see happen?
Yeah. So we're intending to be there. We have told his family that anything, and we've told Devin, we talk to Devin a couple times a week still ongoing while he's in jail. So we've told them that we will be there in full support of him, and we will remain in that front. So we'll be there to say, if given a voice, if the opportunity to speak, we'll take it, and to just advocate for his release. I know this trial is about the potential of misrepresentation and getting a new trial. I'm hopeful that what it ultimately, and again, this is just me, this isn't any inside scoop, so nobody run away with this, but I'm hopeful that that's granted, but ultimately the decision is, hey, there are so many millions of people, and the support of Devin and the voices have been heard in the state's attorney's office. I mean, this is a black eye on that organization, on that state organization, because, you know, there are very, very few people who have any interest in additional sentencing or harm or trials or anything else. So, you know, what we're praying for is that we go there, they grant that to him, and ultimately decide to dismiss that. And maybe there's some plea agreement that they can come up with that is fair. Again, I don't, you know, I think if there's a plea that encompasses the speeding and just the speeding, it's really hard for Devin. He doesn't want to be labeled.
Right.
And again, we're not in his shoes, so none of us know what that feels like.
Yeah.
Just because we don't see him that way.
Right.
I think he has just a genuine fear that if he's labeled that's who he is to the world. And despite how we all feel about him. So,
yeah, that's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah, I can't fathom. I will tell you this. Victoria and Mike are his mom and dad, and I don't know if his moral compass or his confidence or his ability to see the light and remain positive. I don't know where it comes from. I don't know if it's mom, if it's dad, it's a combination of grandma, grandpa, cousin, niece. I don't know where it comes from, but he is a remarkable young man. He's been to hell and back.
Yeah.
And he remains as optimistic and as positive as I mean, far greater than how I could do it. I mean, it's just amazing when I talk to him. I just sent him a book that I'm reading. It's a Buddhist priest, and you can only send religious books. So I sent him a book, and he's just so excited. Thank you so much, Jimmy. I can't wait to read it, and we can talk about it. And like, you know, we talk. 15 minutes is all we get, but we make the most of those 15. It's not boring. Like I said, he's a great conversationalist, but
I love that. It seems like a sweet
I believe it's all going to work out, and it's been hell, but I think we all knew the day that this accident happened, we were all facing hell, and that includes Devin and his family. And if we can ultimately get him freed from this stuff, I got a couple of special cigars that we need to smoke together. And
I love that. Yeah. It's just hard to think, you know, that he, you know, has to deal with the psychological part of it. And he can't even really do that because he's in jail. So, you know,
no, imagine there, he's got I'm sure he has to walk and remain confident and to protect himself. I mean, just that fear and that potential environment, I'm sure that he has to hold his chin up, and he's not getting any time to process the emotional baggage. I mean, he's got to put that in the rear view mirror. Hell, if he's like me crying in there, I can't imagine that would present yourself as being able to protect yourself in that environment. And I think that there's obviously an aspect of that that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he it's not like he's familiar with, you know, being in jails, and
never.
You know, he's so young to begin with. He was never in trouble before, and so it's a lot on one person at that age to have to go through, to be in, you know, now the jail system. He's now part of the jail system. He probably won't ever be the same. by the time he hopefully it's soon, but whenever he does, he won't be the same. He's already been there now for some time. So he probably won't be the same. And then he's going to have to unpack, what he went through, his own injuries, but then the fact that he was the driver of a car where 3 people lost their lives, and one of them being someone that a girl that he loved and had plans with for the future. So it's a lot that he's going to have to deal with and unpack. So I pray for the best outcome. I pray that you and your family continues to find peace in the memory of Alexandra, Ali, Shorty. I pray that you always have that those memories with you, and that you find peace and you have peace. And I think that you will, because it looks as though you know how to find that peace. And that's part of the problem with a lot of people. So but I do pray for you guys. I pray that you have the justice that you so badly deserve, and that things go in the right direction for Devin, but also that the person who's responsible stays where he belongs and does his time. So I just want to express that to you, and I guess we'll wrap it up. I want to say thank you again. Please extend my condolences to your wife and to your son on this tremendous loss. And I know that I am praying for you guys. And we are going to the SaveDevin.com website, and we are doing what we can on that end of it for Devin, for justice for him. And again, I really appreciate you coming on today. And just like I said, if everybody could take a page from Jimmy Dulin's book.
I wrote a book.
You did? Tell
I
us.
did.
Tell us about your book.
Actually, if you want to read it, it's on Amazon. It's a very short book. It's
okay.
Oh shoot! I thought I had one right here. I do. Here it is.
Let's see.
The kids are in it, so you can. Whoops! There it is.
Okay. I want more.
Yep, I want more. It's my business philosophy, but it's also I'm kind of a storyteller, so I talk about both kids in there and stuff like that. So
I love that. That's
beautiful. Anyway, it was fun. I take great pride in writing a book as a 2-time community college dropout. So
good for you. Good for you. I always say, look, you don't have. I want my kids to go to college, but I understand that it's not for everyone. And I was really interested to meet you because, this is a different time, right? Our kids are now on social media and they're becoming famous and they're making careers out of social media. And although I do have a very negative feeling about social media because it can be very toxic, and I worry about my children being on social media, this is a positive side to it. And I like to hear that as well.
I got to tell you, there's a lot to Allie's background in social media.
Yeah, it sounds
No. There's a lot back there. Her social media goes way back. And there's some everybody knows about the high moments now, but there's some low moments in social media for Alexandra. But she was not only making a living, she was making 7 figures.
It's amazing.
It is amazing. And she had done it on her own. The only involvement that I really played in it was business. She would call me and say, okay, Dad, I got this contract. They're offering me, $25,000 to do this. And she would get my opinion. And I remember the very first one I negotiated behind the scenes for her. And she was like, Dad, I lost it. You ruined it. And I was like, no, baby, I didn't ruin it. Just sit tight. And about 48 hours later, she got a signed deal for like 4 times what they had offered her.
Wow.
And I'm like, it's just, but I got to tell you something. I was shaking in my boots because I negotiate for a living, but I'm negotiating on my behalf. when you're negotiating somebody else's money, it's even easier to be tough guy.
Oh yeah, yeah. But then on the same end of it, you know that she'll be upset with you if she doesn't.
Oh, she
lose
would
it.
have been mad as a hornet at me if I had lost that deal. So yeah,
Yeah.
a friend of mine did all her legal work, but social media, it was certainly had both. She had been on both sides of it. She had been on the ugly side and the good side, and
I'm sure, because as beautiful as you are, and as big of a personality as you have, somebody always finds the negative. So
Yeah.
you have to be a strong person
Very.
to be able to push past that, right?
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of negative in social media. So the fact that she's able to do that, I say, like I say to my kids all the time, I'm like, that's 1 in a million of people that really become a huge success on social media, because you have to be able to, look past that and, know how to also handle the business aspect of it. It's not just you get on and you make videos and you get a million followers. It's not that easy, So
Nope.
she really had a strong foundation for her to be able to be that successful.
I know that she went when she had a low moment in social media. This is when she was at home and just a high schooler. We took her to a counselor and a psychologist or psychiatrist. I don't know which one it was, but anyway, they said that we had raised what he deemed to be some of the highest in a positive way self-esteem for a young woman. He said typically that she's in an age where that self-esteem can be really low and really vulnerable and scared. But he said, you have raised the most confident young lady. And that's truly, she really was. She was able to roll stuff off of her better than most.
Yeah. With that many followers, you're not going to get all people that love you. You're going to get people that come and hate too. So you have to be able to do that. And, that's why I was interested to meet her mom or dad or whoever and say, wow, what does it look like on that side of it? Because I'm raising kids in this world now of social media. And I don't know a lot of parents that have their kids that have these huge platforms. I don't know any. You're the first one. So I'm interested, like, what are the parents like? Are they just like, oh, I don't care? Or are they involved? So it's nice to meet somebody like yourself and see what a parent is like on the other side of that child who's become such a sensation on social media.
Yeah,
and
well,
you really supported her.
I certainly we did support her. I certainly wouldn't take anything. I can tell you that her work ethic was impeccable. Her cleaning ethic was horrendous, but her work ethic was impeccable.
Yeah, she's messy, right? Messy,
And the thing that surprised me the most, just on a funny note with her, when we went to clean her apartment out, we used to joke around. I used to say, if you gave my 2 kids $20 each and you dropped them off in front of Target, Alex would go in there and she would come out with a cart full of stuff and be so excited. JD would call a cab and get a ride to in our city, it's called the Fashion Mall. And then he'd say, okay, that's my cab money, but where's my money for shopping? Like, that's the 2 personalities.
Right.
And the truth, it actually ended up being so true. Although Allie loved her dad, I grew up in the women's fashion industry. My mother owned clothing stores. So taking the kids shopping, taking my daughter, I took her to get her first bra, for instance. I mean, these kind of things were not unusual for me because I grew up in the fashion world.
Sure.
And I bought her some designer handbags and things like that. But the only designer stuff that she had was the stuff that her dad or her mother bought her. She didn't spend a dime. She had her Starbucks. She had her cute little car that we bought both of the kids a car when they graduated. She had her cute little car. And she was more into experiences. She, for her 21st birthday, her and Devin flew to to Vegas and they went to the Grand Canyon, and she rented a Hello Kitty yurt. And
Yeah, I heard she was very into Hello Kitty, right?
oh, she loved Hello Kitty. So, but it was experiences. She just didn't have any material, and none of her clothes. I mean, most of her clothes were free because she was the spokesperson for various designers and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Amazing.
it just, that kind of stuff. Just when you see someone evolve as a, I don't know. There's a lot of good that comes as a parent to see them evolve and say, "Wow, my daughter's saving money." She got her.
Yeah.
When she got that, she called me and wanted me to co-sign on this apartment that she had in St. Pete. And I said, no, I'm not going to co-sign on it. She said, "Why, Dad?" And I said, "Because, honey, based on what you've told me and the money you're making and the credit that I know you have, because your dad made sure that you built good credit rating. I said, you should be able to walk in there. And as long as your income," because I never asked her to prove anything to me, "as long as you have the income that allows you to afford that apartment, it'll be a cakewalk." And sure as shit, she walked right in there. My 20-year-old daughter, she filled out the application, showed them her bank account with over $100 grand in cash in it, and they signed her lease on the spot. And she called me. She goes, "Oh my God, Dad, I can't believe it." And I said, "Sweetheart, trust me. At 20 years old, you've got the world by the privates because you've got money in the bank. You've got an 800 credit score. Like."
Yeah, there's people in their 50s and 60s that don't have that.
Oh, Lord. So anyway, funny story. There's so many stories, but I know we've been on for a long time, and
I know you have
talk
plans.
about her for days, as you're well aware.
Of course. But Jimmy, thank you so much again. I really appreciate it. It was so wonderful learning about Allie. And I can't wait to share this and have all my followers learn about the person that Allie was, the person that you are, and your family. So again, thank you so much. And I'll be continuing to follow up. And if you get a chance, if you could please, I'd like to do at the end, I always like to do a nice little memorial. If you can send me or you can direct me, I think she has, are you the one that's running the Instagram page? There's an Instagram page that Britt had shared with me.
Her Instagram page?
There's,
you talking about Allie?
Because I know one was taken down, right?
No, so we don't have her TikTok page, but we have her Instagram page. Okay. And we, so there's whatever, first of all, thank you for doing this and sharing Devin's journey and what you can do to help. Second of all, in terms of the confidence of young ladies, my wife and I have started the Allie D Spice XO Foundation. And so we will be doing things to help young ladies with confidence and helping them on their journey in her memory. And more of that to come. We've just kind of kept that on the back burner as we devote our attention to helping Devin and his family. So after this is all done, then we plan on working on that as well. But if there's something you need from your memorial perspective, let me know. I'm more than happy to help any way I can.
Yes, and can you confirm? And then I'll also share a link to that. This way, when you share whatever you plan to do, I could share the link. It says this one is Allie D Spice XO. Is that the official one, the correct one?
That's hers. There's a bunch of fake ones out there, but that is hers. It has I don't know, maybe 65 or 70,000.
And then she has fan pages.
That's her.
Yeah, it's 84,000 actually now.
Oh, well, it's jumped up a little bit. My wife and I are very popular.
And then, there's the Little Brat Company.
Yeah, the Little Bra Company. She had a bra with them that she designed with them.
Yeah, okay, so I'm going to make sure that we link that as well.
Great.
Well, I will make sure that we share the link. And like I said, if I can use any of the photos off of there for the memorial, if you would allow permission, I will share that.
Feel free.
As well.
Absolutely. And if you need any others, just let me know. I'm happy to help.
I think we have a little bit of a connection problem.
We do.
Okay.
Hope when you take that jump, you don't feel the fall. Hope when the water rises, you build a wall. Hope when the crowd screams out, you're screaming your name. Hope if everybody runs, you choose to stay. Hope that you fall in love and it hurts so bad. Babe, the only way you can know, you give it all you had. And I hope that you don't suffer, but take the pain. Hope when the moment comes, you'll say, I did it all. I did it all. I owned every second that this world could give. I saw so many places, the things that I did. Yeah, with every broken bone, I swear I lived.